Hey everybody, we were just on a space and we got cut out, so I'm just going to start a new one, see if I can get Thomas back as well. Give me a second. Copy link. If anyone wants to join as a speaker, put your hand up if you got any questions. Let me just try and get Thomas back and plan C. Give me 1 second. Okay. And Thomas. Okay. Okay, Thomas is here. Is he? If anyone wants to... Okay, we've got a few people. I'm just going to invite a few people in to be a speaker. And maybe they can ask some questions. I'm not sure if any of you were on the previous space. Can you hear me okay? I invited 4 people to ask a question.
Hello. Hey, this is El Perro.
Hey, how you doing?
Simon, I want to thank you. You've been amazing. You literally have been like a light in the darkness for all these people, and myself included, who've been hurt by the situation, but has...
Oh, shit. I think I just muted everybody by accident. Let me try
You
that
muted
again.
me. I think you muted me. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was just thanking you because you really have kept everybody informed, and at the very least, even if we don't agree with some of your suggestions or speculations, you are a light, and so thank you. I honestly just have a few small questions. The first one was, I thought there was like a hole of 1.2 billion, and I heard you say 3 billion. So I was like, wow, I guess the thing is growing. I don't know if that's your speculation or obviously from what you estimate what can happen.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, shall I clarify?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you look at the balance sheet, what they've done is they've listed a bunch of liabilities and a bunch of assets. And one line on that balance sheet says crypto assets. And there's an amount that they owe, which is liabilities, which is 4.7 billion, which I'm assuming is a bunch of tokens that people hold on the platform and stable coins. And we don't know the makeup of those balances. There could be some Cell tokens, there could be some Bitcoin. Well, there will be all of those. And it says 4.7 billion. And then on another line, they say how many crypto assets they hold, which is 1.7 billion. So the difference between 4.7 billion and 1.7 billion is 3 billion. So that implies that they're short $3 billion of crypto assets. Now, what they've done on their balance sheet is they've also added company assets. So because they said when you deposit funds with Celsius, we own the money, which is the legal regulated process of a bank, but they don't have a banking license. Then they've also said our assets count towards that. So they put an item there saying mining, 720 million. And they also put an item there saying Cell token, 600 million. And then if you add all these different assets that they piled on top, you get to a $1.2 billion hole. But, they're assuming that they could get 720 million for their mining and 600 million for their Cell tokens held in treasury. So that's the thing. I'm just going to let Thomas in as co-host. Yeah, so at the moment, the way I'm reading that balance sheet is that they're short $3 billion of crypto. And what I'm lobbying for, as it were, is a token by token balance. So we just know how many Bitcoin do you have, how many ETH do you have, how many Cell tokens do you have, and then we can start to move forward with modeling, maths, figuring out the actual haircut. So that's where I get the $3 billion number from.
Got it. All right. My following question would be just, so people who are holding stable, that falls into crypto, obviously. But if they're selling assets to try to patch that hole, I guess the people who are holding one for one, if it holds the peg, probably have a better, better position just because of what that crypto means
Yeah,
in that
so
sense,
if
right?
someone holds stablecoin, they think in dollars. So if I've got $1 million of USDC on the platform, then I'm thinking, okay, maybe you give me a 50% haircut, so I end up with $500,000. And maybe there's a way that that Celsius can legally and compliantly mine a bunch of Bitcoin, stake a bunch of ETH, or hold a bunch of tokens and somehow outperform the market through a hedge fund. Then potentially I could make back those stable coins if the market recovered or if we held those. But then you've got the problem of discretionary fund management, which is what the objective, I think the trustees and both the regulators will have, that they don't believe that Celsius is in a position to be able to manage people's money, and they don't have the licenses to manage people's money, because they'd have to make discretionary decisions around when to sell, what to buy, what to do. And my argument would be I'd rather just have a haircut, have some equity in a company that can grow.
Well, I was going to
Yeah.
say that would lead to my final question, which is obviously that management team needs to be out. We all agree on that. They poorly delivered. So the new company, like if it's you, let's say, it'll be great. But if whoever comes up with a better solution, what's the value of the Celsius as a company? Like, what's the value? What kind of business it becomes? That's where I'm like, wait. So we lose all faith on CFI. So what's here? What's left to watch in this
Yeah,
theater?
so I'm a shareholder in the company Celsius, and I attribute a zero value to my shares right now, because all the money is going to creditors and it's deep in debt. So I believe the value of my Celsius shares is zero right now. There's some people that have preference shares, and they could try and end up, if in this previous scenario where they hold the crypto, they repay the debt, and then they end up with whatever crypto is left over, so they could retrieve some value, and that's what the preference shareholders may be putting together lawsuits in order to try and achieve. And the preference shareholders, sorry if I get technical, it just means that I invested in a class of share called ordinary shares, and the institutional investors basically invested, and Celsius didn't offer us our preemption rights. And they went out and sold those shares in breach of their shareholder agreement. And so we were working with them on due diligence to try and correct their mistake. But they issued preference shares, and they used the fact that they were majority shareholders in order to vote out some of the rights when those new investors came along. So they have additional rights to try and claim additional claims. But in terms of the NewCo is worth whatever the valuation of the NewCo is. So, and that depends on the plan of whoever the new company is.
No,
So if
I
yeah,
get that. I get that when it comes to valuing your stock, the assets you have. I get that part. But as an operational company, like,
yeah,
I go to a bank and they give me 0.1%. If I go to, a Bank of the Future, am I getting what, 1.5%? And I go, okay, I see why do
mm,
I need to be as a customer? Why
yeah,
would
yeah,
I
got
want to
you.
continue being in this company? Let's say it's
Sure. So
Celsius 2.0 or whatever. Yeah, whatever you
yeah,
call it.
yeah. Um, so what we would look to do is create a company whereby we incentivize those that want to retain the service, under a new management, new model, and regulatory licenses and public level reporting, and offer them the services again. So if you ask me what I want, um, I am a customer of Celsius, because I didn't want to sell my Bitcoin, and so I put some Bitcoin in Celsius in order to pull out a dollar loan, and I put enough Bitcoin in there to cover the interest on that loan. And I would like that service to continue under a regulatory compliant model with a management team and a different risk model. And so we would look to say that here is a company that can operate that business, and we'd like to take the whole community with us and give them shares in that company. And if the customers want to leave, then they leave. If the customers want to stay, then we have a way of them staying.
Thank you. I appreciate all that the time you put and effort into helping everybody here who is in the dark. Thanks again for all your work, and thanks everybody who's
pleasure. Before we got cut out, I think Thomas was like really mid-flow of a really important point.
Mid-flow. No, man, I'm like pontificating. So apologies for being long-winded. Hey, Simon, can I ask you? This is the first I've ever heard of it. So y'all had preemptive rights, and they weren't honored. You feel?
Yeah, they issued equity without the fulfilling their preemption rights.
Wow, crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know what the cause of action is for that you get. I guess you could get your equity. I don't know. I guess.
Well, I mean, I don't think anyone wants to reinvest in equity that's worth zero now at a $3 billion valuation.
So can I give a little 2 seconds on the Series B? I think you're spot on. It seems like their counsel wants to try to get their own committee, which is okay. More committees, more state dollars being burnt on professionals, which is unfortunate. I mean, I don't mind ad hocs, but I do have a problem with a lot of people wanting statutory committees that are paid for by the state. And the second thing is they're talking about Plan C. Okay, great. I was like, oh my god, we got to combine these.
Yeah, I just want to quickly, sorry, Tom, I just want to apologize to everyone. Yeah. I mean, my internet went down, and it sucks. We had a great room and a great conversation going, so we'll try to get that going again. But yeah, really sorry my internet went down there, guys. That's my bad.
Oh man, it's Friday night, so it's Friday afternoon. I don't know, wherever you are. So I guess it happens. Let me just finish. So the Series B, yeah, they want to come for. They think they're first on the mining assets and the GK8 assets, and they think they have a liquidation preference. I'm not an expert on liquidity on preference shares, but I'm pretty sure they think that their liquidity preference is triggered 1-for-1, which would be like $600 or $700 million of debt that would be first on those assets. So that's bad for customers. What I really don't love is that the guys that represented Westcap in the transaction are the UCC counsel. But I'm going to shut up about that, and I'm not going to say anything about it. So everybody else, that's all I wanted to throw in there.
Is what counsel? Sorry.
It got covered by a bankruptcy publication called Petition. I can send you a link to it, and I other people had spotted it as well. But the White & Case, I know it's different lawyers and they're a big law firm, but the same guys that represented Westcap in the Series B financing, where the consumer business was moved from the UK to the US, and the Series B guys became first on the mining assets in the GK8 and at any holdco assets of the UK parent. They were represented by White & Case. And White & Case is and now I know it's a different department. Yeah. One's bankruptcy, one's M&A. But anyway, but it's the same law firm, which I don't love. But it's fine. They're a very professional firm. Should all be above board. But I just want to flush out some of the Series B arguments of what they were sort of saying is what they think they have. To me, it's potentially a fraudulent transfer. Debtor was probably insolvent at the time of the transaction, and that's why White & Case insisted on them moving around the boxes. You see this a lot. Or maybe they looked at Mashinsky's stuff, and what did they find out in due diligence? Maybe they found out that there was a lot more aggressive lending activity than they thought. I mean, when you guys were doing due diligence, it took them 9 months to do due diligence.
We didn't get to the end.
And for yourself, you Thomas, didn't even get there. Please.
Can I give an example of how misled the community was? So Alex bragged about the fact that they did 9 months of due diligence as if they unturned every stone and it was extremely thorough, and this gives a stamp of approval that everything going on with Celsius is above board. He literally pitched to the community that look at these investors, they've come in. The community thought, wow, these guys are big players. They did extremely good due diligence. This basically means Celsius is bulletproof, stamp of approval. Let's go. That's how the community. That's honestly, if anyone in the community disagrees, I'd love to hear it. But I was here for all of that, and so that's anyways. But keep going.
I'm still amazed how they managed. He managed. I mean, you got to give it credit where credit's due. He managed to get them to invest. that's it's a pretty an amazing achievement. Like, it's yeah. He managed to get them invest, even though we know what we know now. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that is true. It is impressive from that standpoint for sure.
Well, it is and it isn't, because they said, yeah, we'll invest in your mining co and your other holdco assets, but we don't want the consumer business to be in the same we don't want
Oh, really? Is
the
that what happened? I'm putting it all together
yeah.
now.
So
I didn't actually know that,
at the
and
time of
that's
the
why there
series.
was the loan between the mining and the parent.
Exactly. Yeah. So you've got this loan coming from the holdco, which is this UK holding company, right? So that's one LLC. And what they did as part of the transaction is they moved. That's why the terms of service moved from UK to like, I don't know if it was New Jersey or New York, but it moved from UK to US, is because they moved the consumer business down to a American LLC. Now maybe they would say like, oh, we did it for regulatory reasons, and maybe they did. But it kind of suspiciously happened right when the Series B happened. So methinks that it's likely connected to the investment, where they said, hey, we love to invest in mining and we get the consumer business for free
It's all
because
making sense now.
Yeah.
And that's why they did it as a standalone IPO. Yeah. And then they used it to say they've been doing due diligence on all of our operations.
Well, it's great press for the overall company, but then there was
Right.
never disclosed. Like, it was never clarified that they weren't really investing in the core business; they're investing in mining. Like, again, it was a great marketing thing, and then the idea is they got what they wanted, which was the mining.
So maybe
so they've got a pretty good case, it sounds.
Yeah. Well, they might. Okay, so let's be careful. I mean, I think, to me, liquidation preferences, you have what are called ipsos factos, or whatever they're called. They're basically, you can't trigger some of these liquidation preferences by the mere filing of a bankruptcy. You have to actually liquidate the assets. So, and I think there's like a trigger at what valuation. So I think they're still out of the money unless like the whole structure ends up being like, wait. So they are like crazy crypto long, like if they're like, everybody should get dollarized and come on Bitcoin. I mean, they're like,
it makes so much more sense, Thomas, that a pension fund would want to invest in mining exposure rather than this crazy business that didn't have regulatory approvals.
Well, maybe that, or maybe they were just like, we just can't get our head around the regulatory risk. I mean, maybe it's not nefarious so much as like, ooh, there's like this, and there's like the state.
No, I don't think they touched it. They just wanted mining exposure.
And they were like, we don't want to touch that box, and we're okay to get residual flow on that. But also, you plan C that you're totally on with that. Like, it's great for Mashinsky. It looks like he just raised $700 million, and he goes around telling everybody he has $700 million. The problem is, that ain't your money. You know what I mean? Like, you don't actually get that money. That's for us at the holdco to spend on mining and other investments. So it's sort of a sleight of hand.
It all makes sense. And then he was going around saying we got a $2 billion balance sheet, which was sell, and the money that was invested for mining. Yeah, that's. Sorry, you've just enlightened me to something I didn't put together. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, everyone in the community, the idea from what we were told and all the headlines, everything was this pension fund is investing in Celsius. That's what we were told. We were not told it was a subsidiary of Celsius or whatever. It was the overall company. They did 9 months of due diligence, and they believe the overall company is worth this 600 or 700 million or whatever. But anyways, we can move on.
All right, I've learned something new. Who wants to ask a question?
Hey, Simon, Plan C, Thomas. This is Wes. I appreciate you guys always taking time out of your busy days to hold these sessions. Real quick question on my side. There's a number of folks that I know who had originally put their tokens in earn accounts, and then they drew loans against those tokens. And what's unclear to them is whether those tokens got moved to custody accounts, because they are essentially collateral at that point. Have you heard any indication on sort of what the perspective or point of view is? And if not, what's your guys' sort of individual point of views on where this may land?
Yeah, I think they, and I can't say for certain, but I'm pretty sure they were rehypothecating collateral. So that's how they were making the claim that we give all our money to our community, because they were taking the collateral and rehypothecating again and again and putting them in DeFi contracts.
Got it. So in terms of folks with collateral tied up, it sounds like custody.
Yeah, the
lending custody
collateral wasn't put in custody, I don't believe, because otherwise there wouldn't be the run on the bank. They were put in DeFi contracts.
Got it.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that perspective.
Is it Waz? Am I saying your name right?
Wes.
No, Wes. You just say Wes. Okay. Your spelling threw me off, man. Cool car. I would say, just so you know, there's like a loan group that you might want to try joining on Telegram, and they actually asked me to give a shout out on Spaces tonight because they have some viewpoints about how the terms and conditions are written and whether they can assert, some sort of priority over their collateral. I don't want to give too much away because like they're doing their own thing, but if you have a loan and you're interested in like, you should try to, if you like DM me, I'll try to send. I was busy today, so I have a few people that DM me and I need to send links to. But if you DM me, I'll try to send you a link to their group, or you might be in it.
Sounds good. No, I've got a bunch of folks that are impacted, so I appreciate that. Thank you so much for the time.
Yeah, man.
Cool. Who wants to ask a question? I've let a few people in.
Hey, Simon, it's Hodler here. Do you guys hear an echo on your side? Are we okay?
I do. It's gone away now.
Yeah, okay. One question for you, Simon, is I know you had $5 billion available, or was it $5 billion or $6 billion or something like that? Somewhere between $500 million and $6 billion available to invest. What happened to those funds? Are those funds available at all to help us reduce the size of the hole in Celsius, in spite of the fact that we're now on sort of what you've coined as your third plan? Or is that completely off the table, right?
Completely off the table. So we were considering a bailout based upon it not being the company that it turned out to be that we got disclosed in Chapter 11. And we had people that would write the checks if they had the information, and it still had to be a good investment. They're not just going to do it as charity. But now those same investors would much rather collateralize a NUCO, capitalize, right? Not collateralize, capitalize a NUCO. And I'm not saying that's going to have $6 billion of cash because it doesn't need $6 billion of cash.
Right.
But no, there is no. I do not believe. I would love for there to be a bailout, and if the speculation was if Ripple Labs want to come and issue a bunch of XRP to make everyone whole, then I'd accept that over my plan any day, and I'd dump the XRP and buy Bitcoin back.
Right.
So if anyone wants to do a bailout, you should definitely accept their plan, depending on what asset they're using. But if they're willing to bail out with a reasonably liquid asset that everyone could do in a reasonable time frame and get back their funds, I'd vote that over my plan any day.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I guess the part that I'm stumbling over right now is, like, I know your third plan here is basically looking to Celsius for them to determine a haircut, and then adding equity as sort of a bolt-on component to that deal to make it better for everyone. So I understand that. But what about, dipping into that pool of funds that you had access to make it better yet, and further reduce the size of the hole?
Yeah, there's a way, like maybe we could do it through some kind of financial innovation where there's a token debt or equity, but the hole's so big, and no one believes that they now, they now need to repay people's debt and invest in the equity of a company. They think that they could just invest in the equity of a company.
I see.
There's no savvy investor that's going to sign up to those terms unless they're a money printer, which Ripple is, a money printer.
Right. But wouldn't those potential investors also get a proportionally larger percentage of the equity in the NUCO if they did decide to repay or fill in some of the hole, so to speak?
Well, the whole would be a debt product rather than an equity product. So maybe there's a way of structuring it, but yeah, the maths don't work.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, you'd have to have a really, really, really valuable company, and those types of valuations in the current markets. I can't see.
Yeah, and essentially, if someone comes in and fills the hole, what's to stop people from taking their crypto off the app? And now someone just basically gave charity to those people. So
it's just a really bad investment. Just being ruthless. Sorry.
Yeah, putting that money towards a new company is another thing when they get equity, but just giving charity is yeah. They didn't become billionaires probably by doing that or whatever. Sorry, you go ahead, Simon, whoever you want to talk to next.
Yeah, go for it. Carry on inviting people in. Put your hands up. I've invited a bunch of people. It's a free flow.
So Simon, got a question for you. You keep changing your plan, and you also keep saying you're here for the community. But I've seen some of your recent posts which are very against the community in regards to the sell short squeeze. So could you explain to us why you're against the short squeeze, and you actually saying that if it was up to you, you would have it sell removed from every exchange and basically make it market manipulation, from what I can gather. So you're not here for the community. You're here for yourself. You're here to make money.
Wait. We're not going to project. We're not going to attack. We're going to have a reasonable conversation, right?
Well,
so
I've never heard a proper response. I'm going to say thank you to both you and Simon, because you've helped the retail pump today with your comment.
Okay. You're not being constructive. We're here for a real conversation with logic. We're not going to attack people.
No,
you just came in and literally attacked me and Simon with.
I haven't attacked you. I haven't attacked you. I asked you a genuine question. I asked you why you're against the community.
We're not against the community. So first of all, you're defining.
That way. You've divided in the last 11 weeks. You've split the community down the middle.
I have absolutely done nothing to divide the community.
Whatever. Okay? You have, and you know it.
Hey,
I
have not. I have not.
Let's start again. Sorry, what's your name?
Just call me Dot.
Dor. So I think the first part is you're saying, are we for the community? So let's define the community. I'm here putting together plans for creditors. And creditors consist of people that sell owe money to. If you hold sell token on the app, then you're a creditor. If you're buying and selling the sell token outside the app, then you're in a different position to creditors. Your position is that you can currently sell your token in a liquid market, and there's a bunch of there's some people that are shorting the market, and there's some people that are squeezing the market, and you can be a trader and you can play that game. But I'm talking to creditors. I'm not talking about people that are shorting or squeezing. So if you hold sell token on the app, then I'm trying to put together a plan for creditors that Celsius owes money to. If Celsius doesn't owe you money and you have sell tokens outside the app, then that's your game. That's a different game. I'm not having any plan on those. What's frustrating is when people keep messaging me saying, hey, if we push the price of the sell token up, does that mean it will fill the hole? And I'm trying to explain to people, no, that's enabling Celsius Network, the company, to play balance sheet gymnastics that have no reflection on reality. What would be much, much, much easier is if we just said, and I'm not saying it is worth zero as a statement to try and make people sell. I'm saying if the balance sheet says that sell is worth zero as an asset and a liability, then we can just get on with how Celsius, if there's going to be an equity swap, then we can just get on with how is Celsius going to price it. Well, maybe it's ICO price, maybe it's market price, maybe it's something else. But then we can actually just start working together in a real plan, rather than a bunch of people that are shorting and squeezing, attacking my reputation, where every time I say something, they call it FUD. And every time, because they have a slightly different agenda to creditors, because they just want the price to sell to go up, because there's a short-term profit opportunity, which might be a great opportunity for you, is a really bad opportunity for me, because I definitely don't want to participate, because I think it would compromise my position if it turned out that I was doing an Alex Mazinski in the background, telling people one thing and doing something else. And I think it would compromise the whole plan and ruin our opportunity to try and make creditors whole. So what I think you're saying is, Simon, you're against the 7% of people that are shorting and squeezing right now. And the actions that you're saying is helping our campaign, because every time you say something bad, the price goes up further, is what I think you're saying.
Yeah, and I will thank you for that. But the reason why I got into the short squeezes, I didn't like your plan. It was it didn't make sense. It didn't sound like it was going to make me whole.
Okay. Help me make it a better plan. What is it you don't like?
I want to understand, first of all, why Celsius lost that money, and basically strip out those parts of the business that are loss making and replace them with a company that actually works, is secure, it doesn't risk my livelihood. I'm not. I was lucky when they pulled out of the UK. It rang alarm bells for me, so I pulled out 80k, and I left 30k in Celsius. So I'm not in the same bad position like thousands and thousands of people are, and I just find it disgusting that so many people could be affected by the actions of maybe 20 people.
You said your plan is you'd want the company to reopen. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I think it's a good product. I think it's
yeah. So what do you think has to happen for it to reopen?
I don't know. I'm not a businessman. I'm simply a guy who mines some crypto and basically.
I've got three thoughts. I think it needs leadership that has a culture of compliance and honesty. I think it needs a new risk management model where speculative tokens that can very fastly go to zero are not collateral. And it shouldn't, and it should have all the licenses it needs to reopen and get regulators off its back and asking it to stop operating. So what I'm looking to do is put together a plan whereby everybody that wants to stay with the business can continue to use the business in a way where it doesn't get shut down by regulators, and everybody that wants out can just get out. If once Celsius tells us how much tokens they've lost and how many tokens they have, then I'd like to bring everyone with us and give them an opportunity to make up the whole by owning a piece of that company. So and that's a top-up strategy. So whatever Celsius comes up with, I'd like to give them something slightly better. Tell me what you don't like about that plan.
No, it sounds okay. It sounds okay. It just so far there's been so many different people saying different things, different plans, different and a lot of bad mouthing Celsius. A lot of personal things which I don't find really professional. You work in the financial services sector. I used to work in the financial services sector. I would never go after somebody who couldn't actually speak. I'm not a particular fan of.
Let me help you understand that. So I invested.
Let me finish.
Sorry.
I'm not a particular fan of Mashinsky. I'm not, pro or against. Based on what I know, I would say he has to go. I think all the management structure would have to go based on what's happened, and they would. They would need to be.
Let me help you understand why I spoke out against Mazinski. So, firstly, I spoke very kindly of Mazinski in the beginning, and I contacted him and said, "Hey, I think you might be in shit. I can help you. Why don't we put together a plan like I did with Bitfinex? and it turned out that he wasn't willing to provide the finances and make the disclosures in order to make that happen. So then he put me in touch with his investment bankers. And then it turned out that the legal team he'd hired and the investment bankers he hired were asking him to go into bankruptcy. And so he then instead offered me a job as a director to try and take me down with it. And that would take my company down with it as well. So that would have cost my shareholders a lot of money. Prior to that, we were in 9 months of due diligence trying to get transparency and make up for a mistake that he issued shares to new shareholders and screwed over our shareholders without offering the preemption rights. And so we were going through 9 months of due diligence trying to get transparency on financials and regulatory clarity so that we could disclose it and fulfill the obligations when we originally funded his company. It turned out that people kept sending me misrepresentations that he was making in order to encourage people to put all of their life savings into Celsius, take the money out of the bank and put it into that company that no longer does a peer-to-peer lending platform, but it was actually an unregulated hedge fund turning into a security, turning into a bank that was making massive risks with people's money. And suddenly he suspended withdrawals, and I started getting DM after DM on the same day that my father passed away, stating that they were suicidal and that their life savings were no longer at there. And I had a choice to either come out and try and support people and let people know that actually Alex is not on your side. Alex is misrepresented. And I tried to tell people this company's going bankrupt. This company's lost some of your money. And everybody attacked me for that. And I still went out and told them, hey, be prepared. These things are happening. This is coming. And everyone said I'm spreading FUD, and everyone said I'm being awful. And everybody started to attack me. But everybody was now warned about what was coming and decided to prepare. So I then went out and put together a bunch of people that could potentially fill the hole and do a bailout for them. But then he wouldn't give me the numbers and he wouldn't give me what was needed in order to execute that plan. So then finally, I came along and said, look, a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money. What if we could create a company that actually had all the licenses and could continue this service? And we could do that. And instead of just coming along and being a predator and picking up the company for pennies on the dollars, if we end up getting those assets, why don't we just give everybody shares so that we all come together and we can create the Bitfinex story again and people can decide what happens. And the only people that didn't like that plan were a bunch of people that thought that if they aligned with me, it was going to cost value in their sell token that they had just bought, that they were squeezing. And those people started attacking me and trying to find holes in my reputation and said we're better off with Alex as long as the price, because he can get the price to sell up. And if you go with Simon, he might make this compliant, and therefore those sell tokens might not be a part of that plan. That's what happened from my perspective. You shared with me your perspective, which is slightly different.
No. So my perspective is that I know that there was a lot of general noise and FUD about what was happening in the markets in general, and
What
then
was the FUD? What was the FUD?
Yeah, and it seemed to be
what
all
was the
against.
FUD? Can I ask you what was the FUD?
Saying that basically that Celsius are running out of money. You know,
and were they running? Was Celsius insolvent or were they solvent?
No one knows.
We do know. We do
know.
know.
We do know. We do actually know that.
They were insolvent.
So, so based on what
it wasn't FUD.
So there's no FUD, right? It was fact. Can we at least agree there was no FUD, or at least explain what the FUD was?
They saved people. They told people this company is insolvent. Take your money out. Billions of dollars exited, and they are now not in the situation that we are because we left our funds there.
If that happened, then they need to activate the law of preference.
Yeah. So now you're an advocate for preference.
It's a whole nother. That's a whole nother topic, though, and there's legal defenses. That's a whole nother thing. But the core question is, was there FUD?
Those that listened should have they should have that money rolled back so that you that stayed in get some more money.
Oh, I couldn't get out. It's simple as that. I couldn't get out in time.
Yeah, but that's because you didn't listen to what you're calling FUD.
Because I don't pay attention to shit
But
on
it was fact.
Twitter.
If you had listened to
The
the
only
fact, you
reason
wouldn't
I'm
be
on
in this
Twitter now is
situation.
because I lost money on Celsius.
Yeah,
Up
but you're calling
until
it FUD. Why are you calling
Hey,
it FUD? It was fact.
Simon. Hey, Simon. So the
Sorry.
preference discussion, like I really don't think we should bring it up here. I don't think it's the right forum for that. There's arguments on both sides. There's defenses. There's all sorts of stuff. But as far as the FUD topic, I think the community really needs to address this. The word FUD is fear, uncertainty, and doubt. If something turns out to be fact, you cannot continue to call it FUD, guys. Like that's literally. I'm very confused, and I'm also very confused the definition of community, because to me, I've been here for 2.5 years. Like the community, I mean, those are people that supported the company and supported each other and had assets on the app, right? So I just don't see how all of a sudden the community is being redefined as 7% of people that have Cell Token outside the app, which maybe only half those people have assets in the app. So now you might have half those people just speculators that joined a week ago. So now 3.5% of people represent the entire Celsius community. You're attacking people that are trying to help and have been here for years, saying they've divided the community. The only thing I've ever said is I don't support Alex Mashinsky. I have never stopped supporting the community. Alex Mashinsky is not the community. I hope you guys understand that. 3.5% of people that are speculating outside the app on the Cell Token, those are not the community. They're positioning themselves as the community. The community are the people that are here supporting each other, that are not like that are literally trying to get us all whole. Everyone that has their assets in the app is part of the community. Everyone that's been here for years supporting the community, those are the community members. The very vocal people creating conspiracies and attacking community members. I've never been attacked before the Cell short squeeze. I've never been attacked. So again, let's define the community. Don't redefine it as a small percentage that are really like trying to make a short-term game on the Cell Token. I am a top 200 Cell Token holder. I've never sold a Cell Token. I've sold less Cell Tokens than the CEO. You're trying to say I'm not a community member and I don't support Celsius? I've never been paid by Celsius or Simon. Let's focus on the big term goals here, guys. Let's look at the big picture and not attack each other and not create conspiracies.
But what I hear every time you guys speak is that Cell Token is going to go to nothing. It's not. If it was up to you, you would get rid of it. And
never said that.
Let me comment on that.
The whole point of the Cell Token is to build utility around it. That's what's missing at the moment. If you build utility around that token, then you will get value back into Celsius. It's simple. That is the bit is missing.
I wish it were that simple, but it's not.
Can I answer, Dot? Hey, Simon, just 1 second. Dot, have you been here for the last 2.5 years?
Me? No, I've been here about.
When did you join?
Celsius about a year ago.
Okay, so do you know that Celsius has a burn model? Do you know that they burn tokens?
Yeah, I know they burn tokens.
Do you know why they burn tokens? Do you know why that happened? Why that started?
To increase the value.
Do you know who actually started a movement for a month on Twitter and Telegram, who actually got the community to vote and rallied for support to get the burn implemented? It was me.
Okay.
Alex gave me zero credit for that. I've been advocating for Cell utility for 2 years. I've been constantly pushing for more Cell utility. Celsius and Alex said they neglected the token. They neglected the token because they were, dealing with other bigger issues within the company. So Cell utility, trust me, I've advocated and pushed for this for a very long time. And it gets to a certain point where you just got to move on, guys. You got to look at, okay, can we convert the Cell to utility or to equity? What else can we do? I'm a huge Cell token holder. I'm on your team. It's so weird to be attacked by people that hold probably less tokens than you. Have been here way
Trust
less
me,
than
I didn't attack you. If I attacked you, you would know about it.
Okay, anyways, it's all good. It's all good. I just hope people that, are not wrapped up in whatever's going on to understand the big picture here. But yeah, Celsius, trust me, adding utility to the token and implementing it into a business model is very, very complicated. Celsius, the company, never did it. They could never do it. So Simon or another party comes in to blame them and attack them for the mistakes of the past. The Cell token is in this position because of the old management, right? They never added the utility. It's not all of a sudden a new co's. It's like inheriting someone else's problem, right? You understand that?
Yeah, well, the problem I've got with your plan is basically I hold cell tokens and ETH, and both of those you want to get rid of. So
no. So firstly, I'm an ICO investor in ETH, and I still hold those tokens. So I've held it all the way through without selling it. And the ETH, we gave exposure at BnkToTheFuture to ETH token holders by creating a security that allowed them to invest in it in a compliant way. I've dedicated the last 10 years of my life to try and change securities laws in order to democratize investing. I think I was the first one that coined that term. Alex Mashinsky used it a lot later, but he never gave me credit for it. I lobbied for 3 years regulators in the UK to change the laws that led to the ability for people in the UK like yourself to invest under correct disclosures a reasonable amount of their savings in securities. President Obama picked up that work and created the Jobs Act that changed the 1933 Securities Act to allow smaller people and to invest in securities. In 2017, we created a model that allowed people like someone like Alex Mashinsky that wanted to sell tokens in compliance with securities laws to do that through a model called a simple investment in future tokens, which was a very innovative model that allowed people to not get done by regulators and sell these things in compliance with securities laws. And so the fact these are all things that I've worked on, and based upon that experience, when you connect a token to a company, you create a security and lots of issues, and those that want the token to go up. And so when we want to offer a yield service, and I know these are complicated concepts that no customer should ever have to understand because they're just so archaic, but these are the types of things that we have to go through to make things compliant. That's why I've been at this for over a decade. We create securities, and there's a difference between securities and normal products, and that is that you can't put your lifetime savings into them. All of the risks have to be disclosed, and you have to pass a quiz that we created in order to demonstrate that you understand the product that you're investing in, and that your assets could go to zero under set circumstances. And that's the only difference. So people wouldn't have put their lifetime savings into it if it was done in compliance with securities laws. So ETH is, if we want to make an ETH staking product, then all you need to do is wrap a security around it, disclose the risks, and everyone can have their ETH earn product. And in terms of what should collateralize the business model, if you want this business model to continue, then you have to have minimum number of risks that you can manage and hedge. And so when you add 15 to 20 different altcoins and tokens and you collateralize with sell, you have to figure out how to protect the risk that it becomes illiquid and worth zero. That became a risk that took the whole business down. And so my advocacy is for a service that can exist, that can be compliant, can have the correct risk model, and can have a leadership that respects and can be signed off by a regulator in order to allow this. And I'd like to take the whole community with me if I can create it. And if someone else can create a better one, then I'll advocate for them, because if it's better than what we're coming up with. And so I know that's a lot to get your head around. All I can say is that I've been on this for a long time. And the compliance is a very challenging thing that consumers find, hard to understand. But that's the reason why people are in this mess, because they invested in things they didn't understand. And so if you own the sell token, I'm not saying whether it's worth zero at the moment. It's clearly, everyone's locked up, and there's some economics that mean that there's a short-term opportunity for shorters and squeezers to play games. Anyone can participate in those games if they choose. I can't, because I don't want to be. I don't want to get on the wrong side of market manipulation, and I personally believe that it would compromise my position to do so. Now, if when Celsius announce how they price sell, if you hold it on the app, then we would like to treat you as any other creditor, and give those that have sell the opportunity to convert that into equity as any other creditor and receive a portion of their sell back, and get treated fairly like every other creditor, rather than having those that can buy it on the market right now and speculate and create another game which could cause mass market manipulation. I'm sorry if all of that is complicated.
It's not.
But
I understand it. And in regards to sell, I have around about 5K of sell on the app, and I have about 20K of sell off the app, and I have around about, I think at today's prices, it's about 32K of ETH, and that is my holding in Celsius. It would have been a lot more, but I saw alarm bells when they basically pulled out of the UK. And when I checked into why they pulled out of the UK, they cited regulatory difficulties due to Brexit. And I didn't really believe that. So I said, I'm not going to take my 80, well, it'd be about 100K USD, and move that into Celsius if they're moving to the US, because they were citing regulatory issues in the UK. So my risk management was pretty good, and I didn't get burned as hard as a lot of people. But what I'm finding a little bit frustrating is all this division, and everybody's got their own take on it. Yeah, I am squeezing, and that is how I'm going to make myself whole.
that's fine. That's fine. I'm
Hey,
just here for creditors.
Dot. So who do you think created the division within the Celsius?
No comment. Probably various people who live in these Twitter spaces. I try and steer clear of them, but I just wanted to come along. I saw one post from Simon today, which incensed me a little bit, so that's why I came along. And I just came along because I wanted to basically personally thank you for increasing the price by 30 cents.
And how did we increase the price by 30 cents?
If I could just say,
I have no position. I'm not squeezing. I'm not shorting. I'm not involved.
I have zero interest in myself financially. If the price goes up, down, I've never shorted. I've never squeezed. I've never bought and never sold. I've never traded. And that's on purpose. If you buy some sell token now and you make a bunch of money, I'm happy for you. It's no business of me, and it doesn't really affect anything. Now, if you're on the previous space where we got cut off on Plan C's, people were explaining to me the responsibility that I have when sharing information, and I take that responsibility seriously. So if I'm saying stuff that is not, I tried to avoid the whole sell token conversation because I knew these types of things would happen and people would buy and sell based upon information. So I just tried to avoid it. But sometimes when it starts to affect me is when people start messaging me saying, "Oh, if only you would care about creditors if you bought sell," and everyone's trying to push me to buy sell. And then they're also talking about, if we get the price up, we can repay the whole and everything is fixed.
No, I don't think that's necessarily true either.
It's not true, but that's what people are messaging me.
I think your position, because you have such a large play in this, is that you shouldn't say anything in regards to those comments, because I saw that comment and it incensed me to the point where I decided I have to come and say what I think, because you keep saying that you have you don't care, but that post showed that you were emotional and you did care.
Which one? Sorry, which one?
The one that is saying that Cell should be delisted. It's you posted it a few hours ago.
Okay, well, I think it was we could just get on with understanding the balance sheet if we just valued Cell at 0. on the balance sheet, so that we could just get on with all of the people that I'm trying to support right now.
Doesn't that already happen? Don't they do a snapshot at the beginning of the bankruptcy process? And because I get they're not going to value sell at what sell
Yeah,
is.
they're currently valuing it on the last balance sheet at 600 million, and then they haven't disclosed how much sell is included in the crypto holdings, so we still don't know what the value of the actual balance sheet is. So it's prohibiting creating recovery plans, and therefore I think this lack of information is hindering our ability to move forward and help.
If the price goes up or down now, it doesn't. That shouldn't matter because they've
It was
taken
around
a snapshot.
70 cents or so. It was between 70 and 77 cents, is my understanding.
Yeah, it's when people misunderstand that they think by squeezing
it
changes, it fills the hole.
I totally understand that it's not going to have any impact.
That's what drove my emotions. I'm a human, and I'm seeing a lot of people suffering, and when people are misinformed and think that they're suddenly becoming whole again because the price of the token's going up, it does give me an emotional reaction, and sometimes maybe I need to control that. I try as hard as I can, but sometimes hey, people losing a lot of money and people literally joining spaces and telling me how that they're on the verge of suicide, it does get to me.
Yeah, I understand that. As I said, I've spoken to also a lot of people on the squeeze side, and that is what's getting them through. There's some people who've got 5 figures, 6 figures, on the platform, and they're barely making ends meet at the moment because they were living off the interest. So
yeah.
the only way they're surviving is basically of the little bit of money they're making on the squeeze.
Yeah. So what I'd say, I appreciate that. I think we're on the same team. You go ahead, squeeze, do what you want to do. I'll accept your feedback that maybe I shouldn't really comment on anything about sell. But when it starts to affect creditors, I'll comment. But I will try and hold myself to a higher standard. But I think we're on the same team. If you hold ETH on the app, and if you hold Cell token on the app, the only thing that's different between me and you is that you hold some Cell token on the app. I don't. But I consider everybody a creditor, and my job here is to try and get a better deal for creditors. And if I can't offer that better deal, I'll try and support someone that can offer a better deal than me.
Okay.
I'll
accept that.
Hey, Doc, I just want to ask. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to have one quick question for Dot, and then I was going to go to Thomas.
Okay.
But for
can
Dot,
I just ask?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to ask Dot one last question, and then I'll shut up. Just an interesting question. So, what helps the community more? So, how can I be more helpful to the overall community of Celsius, which I define as everyone that's a creditor, or everyone that holds a Cell token. Okay. So how can I support that better? Would it be better for me to be posting on my Twitter about a short squeeze and hashtag short squeeze? Does that help the overall community better, or does it help the? I'm not done. I'm not done.
I'm not going to comment on that because that's me telling you what to do.
I'm not asking you to tell me what to do. I'm asking you what your opinion is.
Personally, if I was you,
I didn't answer I didn't ask you the question yet.
Okay.
So I'm trying to, and everyone that's listening, if you guys can ask yourself the same question and DM me with your response, I'd love to hear it. How do I help the overall community of Celsius better, which is everyone that used the app, everyone that is a creditor, and everyone that holds a Cell token? Is it better for me to be posting all day about a short squeeze and hashtagging short squeeze on my Twitter, or is it better for me to be hosting rooms where anyone from the community can come in and get their questions answered from professionals like lawyers, bankruptcy lawyers, Thomas, which helps the overall community better?
So, in regards to posting about the Cell squeeze, that's up to each individual to do. I'm not going to say that it's something that I expect you to do. If you don't believe in it, you don't believe in it. And
Wait a second. I've never publicly. So first of all, I'm not against the short squeeze whatsoever at all. I'm not against it. I just can't publicly support it because I could have legal issues, right? So I'm not against it,
get that.
but just because I'm not posting about the sell short squeeze, I become an enemy of the community, of a small faction of the community.
Not of me. I'm willing to listen to both sides. As I said, in regards to the community, you have to understand that this whole thing has divided the community. And it doesn't matter if they're squeezing; they still have money trapped in the app.
But
so they're still creditors.
This is 3.5% of the community we're talking about. 3.5%. Right?
Yeah,
so there's 7%. So 3.5%
a
versus 96.5%.
And this is all being played out on social media.
And the 3.5% is attacking the other 6.5%.
Well, no, the other 96%. The other 96% is not on Twitter. There's probably about 10% of the whole of the Celsius account holders on Twitter. So no, that's not accurate at all.
Is there any way we can move on? I'm sorry, but 40 minutes talking about this, I feel like I'm in 5th grade, and we all have a lot of questions. Can we limit this? This is so silly to do all this sell bullshit every fucking phone call. Listen to the past chats, and you'll understand why Simon doesn't want sell in his new platform. It's real simple.
Thank you.
I don't know why we have to berate this issue, but I have a question. I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm going to put my hand back up. Okay, I'm just going to ask my simple question because I'm sorry to get crazy, but I can only listen to these conversations over and over and over. It's not 5th grade. We're all big boys, and we all lost a lot of fucking money, and talking about who's being mean. It's oh my God. Anyway, I'm so glad to hear Simon on the phone, and I spoke to Thomas yesterday about this detailed, and I just want to run it past Simon. I know you're working on the whole Bitcoin mining and El Salvador and all that. Would any of your ideas be to bring some yield to the Celsium community, which is the only reason I think all of us joined Celsius, is we wanted yield? And is there any idea, if in the whole 50% or whatever we call that, is there any way to sort of get kind of a yield on that, knowing that the coin might go up in value over the next 12 years and give us some relief with that kind of an idea?
Just to try and be clear, I want to create a company that can offer a yielding service again. And so we've done a securities business, and we want to add a debt business to that. And so we want to be able to reopen and offer the services subject to certain changes. So it will be equity in that business. And our goal will be to take that company public if we succeed. I don't like promising dividends on equity, but we paid out tens of millions in dividends to our shareholders.
But in your immediate plan, I don't know how much time it would take you to formulate this business. I don't know what kind of numbers you need to raise. There's all these ideas. But sometimes I was saying to Thomas, it would be great if someone put out a simple little graph, kind of saying, hey, if we have 300,000 community members or whatever, let's just say only 50% go onto the new co. Based on that amount of whatever you call it, new investors or whatever, the equity number would need to look like this. The value of holdings needs to look like this. And here's what our goal would be to get yield or something like that. Just some simple idea.
We're going to have to submit a full business plan. So that's what we'll have to do.
But I'm assuming you've already got that planned out in your head, or is this still kind of an ongoing challenge since you don't know what the real numbers are?
We need the real numbers till we can finish.
Because is your hunch telling you if Celsius is being a little slithery about trying to include the value of sell in their overall holdings, and they're not divulging how many coins we have, it might be worse than what we're expecting? Is that your hunch?
Well, I don't necessarily want to make that hunch. There's two sides to the story, and I think it's 50-50. One side of the story is it's incredibly complex, and they have to get a whole bunch of disclosures and ducks lined up before they can line it up. And this may be the worst time of their life, where they're trying to manage more things than they've ever managed, and there's only so many hours in a day, and I imagine that could be the truth. Is there a truth whereby by delaying these numbers, there's a strategy that's being implemented that could work against creditors and for the company? Both of those are equally likely and could be true.
That's my fear. And the longer, I don't know why it's a complicated process in 2022 that there's not some little ledger stating where all the coins are and what column they're in, whether they're not received, whether they're lent, whether they're sold. You know what I mean? I don't know why this is so complicated.
Yeah, it is. It is. I can, in defense of crypto accounting and the services that they were offering, there is a million complications in how you put those on a balance sheet and explain those. It's a complex subject, and there's disagreements between regulators, tax, but at the same time, I think they do know how many tokens they have, and I don't think they're telling us yet.
I think the main complications is how you move forward. Like, I think there is exactly that. There is that ledger. There is that detailed thing on how to go through, but the complications come through with what do you do from that point and with reading that ledger. And then also I want to say, don't feel bad for stepping in like you did. I want to thank you for that.
Yeah, me too.
I'm kind of outspoken and I can only tolerate so much, but I'm going to let everyone else have a chat and a go at this. But, Simon, at the end of the day, if you're able to weave in some sort of yield, I think that would make a lot of people go your way, because that's the main reason we joined Celsius. I didn't even know a thing about the Cell token. I couldn't understand what it was. I was confused. I joined a year ago and I kept trying to understand, like, what do I get with the Cell token? And I almost bought a huge chunk thinking I get a higher percentage in Bitcoin. And when I learned that wasn't the case, I was like just baffled. So I never really understood the Cell token. I have some of it, but whatever. I'll leave it at that. Thanks so much.
Cheers. Just to defend Simon and Plan C a little bit for entertaining that as long as they did. That's coming from the group that they're getting attacked from the most. So I think that's why they kind of spent as much time with that guy. My question to Doc was going to be if he got his Cell token in-app within 3 days, what would he do with it? But my main question is, when we reconnected the space, my whole train of thought got derailed from Thomas talking about the Plan B round, And Simon, you even mentioned it. You're like, gosh, that pension fund has a good case then. When Thomas was talking about the inner workings of that series and how that money was distributed and moved, does that not potentially put that pension fund at the top of the line?
Thomas, can you talk to that?
Yeah. Sorry, I've had to drive my Nona, also my mother-in-law home. Yes, it does on the mining assets and on any holdco assets. Holdco meaning the UK holdco. So the gentleman earlier was saying when they moved from he's a consumer, right? So he's on the consumer company, right? The sort of what's called the unregulated bank side of things. When that was moved from the UK to the US, what it did is it meant that all the
you got a bad connection, Thomas. Did you say he's driving?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm driving. Can you not hear me? Uh-oh.
Yeah. Should we? Are you going to park in a bit? We'll bring you in a bit. When you're done,
give me 1 minute. I'll be
home.
Yeah.
Cool. Should we do another question?
Hey, Simon, how you doing? Appreciate you guys holding this Twitter space. I wanted to ask you a question with regards to converting crypto assets into USD or fiat. Do you not think it's better to maybe the community even get a small haircut now and just pay out in cash as opposed to long term? Reason why I say that is because, and I agree with you with regards to paying out in cash, because I believe Thomas was mentioning, let's just say you have 10 Bitcoins and they're currently valued at 20,000 each. If let's just say in a year from now, they all Bitcoin goes to 100K, that 200,000 now becomes 2 million. But then if you only gonna get half of that, then essentially it's half. Don't you think it makes sense to kind of uh, take money now so I can rebuy Bitcoin, and that way you don't lose that opportunity cost. You kind of are like right back in the game.
Yeah, if you're in stablecoin world, then yeah. So for me, I'd like my crypto in kind. If they give me dollars, I don't really care. I'll just buy back the Bitcoin as long as there's not this big lag between them. And then at the same time, I'd like to figure out what I could do to make up the whole, and it's quite simple to me.
Yeah, correct. Because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, because you don't view it in fiat. You viewing it through Satoshi glasses, correct?
Yeah, so I'm a Bitcoin thinker, so I know how many Bitcoin I had, and I know how many Bitcoin I might get in the payment in kind, or and I know that violates my my principles of always having more Bitcoin each month.
Correct. So going back to one real and very briefly, like if I have 10 Bitcoins at 20,000, and let's just say they say, you know what, the haircut's going to be 50%. Instead of giving you back 10 Bitcoins, we're going to pay you out on the what's worth on 5 of them. So that's giving me back 100K as opposed to 200K. Now with
Yeah,
that
I'd
100,
rather they don't do that. I'd rather they pay in kind, because there's going to be a differential time frame between them paying you when you get paid and this whole process. So
yeah.
I'd like
So
to solidly know how many Bitcoin I got. Then I'd like them to dollarize. Well, I don't think they have any choice but to dollarize the debt, and then and then that will determine the haircut.
gotcha. So what I was mentioning is once you're mentioning dollarizing the debt, don't you think it would potentially be beneficial given the example? Let's just say you know how much they have and know how much of a haircut you're gonna get. Dollarize that example from 5 to 10, which would mean you actually have 100K right now, and let's just say it goes up to, I don't know, it doubles to that 100K. So now that 500K is because I can rebuy, right? I would take that 100K, but put it back in Bitcoin. Once it hits 100K, I technically have 1 million, as opposed to if they dollarize it later down the line and say, okay, Bitcoin's 100K. Now we can pay you out the dollarize it then essentially I'm only getting back 200, 300, leaving an opportunity gap of 2 to 300K. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there are like quite a few infinite possibilities. I think the reason why they might dollarize rather than pay in kind is dealing with the complication of we lost more Bitcoin than ETH, and so therefore everyone that has ETH is going to get this haircut, and everyone that's got Bitcoin is going to get this haircut. I think that's going to be a nightmare, which is why they might end up dollarizing the debt, or the alternative is saying, well, we'll put it all in one crypto. These are complicated decisions, because the problem that Celsius and this bankruptcy proceeding has, every decision leads to a winner and a loser, and there's no way around that. And that's why there's an element of division and these subgroups being created, because every decision is going to lead to a winner for some and a loser for others, and everyone's going to be lobbying for what's best for their current position.
Okay, so do you, in your opinion, think it's much more beneficial, given that eventually they're going to have to dollarize that, for it to be dollarized sooner than later, especially if you have a long-term vision?
Well, again, what I want is the service I originally signed up for. So whatever's left, if there's another company that can offer this in the end, I'd be putting my service to try and get exactly what I had before, and then trying to use the whole, if there's equity, to try and make up that and see if that can do. So there's no real answer to that question. It depends what happens to your coin next.
Yeah,
Simon, I have a
correct.
question. If let's say, because I've listened to your plan and I'm all about the long-term holding, and if you were able to, build this company like you did with the one before, let's say half of the people, who are customers of Celsius now, decided to take the haircut initially, would you still be able to, for the people who wanted to stick with you and see this out to the end? You've talked about the high risk that's involved with that, but in a sense, if half the people were to say and take that haircut, would that at all deter you or change? Would that change the dynamics of you wanting to rebuild the company, or could you still do that?
Yeah, I don't see it as take it or not. I think everyone's getting a haircut, no matter what. So whether you stay or go, everyone's getting a haircut. And we'd like to issue equity to everybody and provide incentives to stay on as a customer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Simon.
Hey, Simon, how you doing?
Let's say okay, I'm sorry. You can go ahead, Crypto.
Thank you. Simon, first of all, thank you for all you're doing to try to help. The people that have been attacking you they're just clueless. And so I really do thank you what you're trying to do to help the community in this time. So my question is actually regarding the whole clawback provision that's been kind of floating around Twitter. And I think there's a lot of misunderstanding regarding it. And so one of the things that I've seen is basically I need clarity on if you were retail in a sense that let's say that you just put some coins on in December on Celsius, and then you decided to withdraw them in May, which is within this 90-day time period they're talking about. Is it actually possible that they can actually legally basically force you to give those coins back or that value back, even though you withdrew it? It's your coins. It's not money you made from them. It's just crypto that you got from somewhere else or you bought on your own, it just seems absolutely insane to me that that's even a topic of discussion. And if it is true that they actually have legal precedent for that, what is the way to defend against this whole nonsense?
I just want to speak because I actually created a group for this specific reason, and there's almost like about 700 people that have joined in less than a week. So just DM me, I'll give you the Telegram link. Thomas has been very helpful with that group. Me, Thomas, and David, who's actually a bankruptcy lawyer of 30 years. We actually did a 2.5-hour stream the other day that ended up being mostly on this subject, and there are very strong legal defenses specifically given this specific situation. So yeah, it's not relevant to everyone on the call, but if you want more information, just send me a DM and I'll get you in the group.
I definitely will. Thank you.
Yeah. They can't force you to crypto. Can I just add one little thing? Of course, they can't force you to give your crypto back. I mean, that's the whole point of cryptography, I guess, right? Well, I shouldn't say that. There's more to it than that, but they can't reverse the transactions. But of course, if assuming preferences don't work, which I think there are a number that will. You live whatever society you live in, you'll have real property and personal property, which they could potentially, try to collect against you. So please don't think that I'm not advocating. I mean, I'm really, and I can unpack this at some other point if someone's really interested, but I'm sort of in the camp that preferences shouldn't be pursued for a number of reasons, which would be like way too long-winded here to talk about. I mean, I can if people really want to talk about it, but of course they can't reverse your crypto, but they definitely can bring a lawsuit against you in whatever jurisdiction you're in. But if you're talking about small dollars, like in your international, or even if you're in the States where you're talking small dollars, like please don't freak out about this stuff and join Plan C's group, because there's a ton of great information in there, I think, about, the defenses and things like that. I think they're real defenses.
I appreciate it. I will definitely do that.
Sure. Are you parked now, Thomas?
Yeah, I'm at home. Yeah, I'm at home. I had to take my mother-in-law home. Dude, it was a crazy night. Did I tell you all? I literally had some guys attack us on the street. It was really terrible.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely fun. Yeah. They basically tried to steal my watch off of my hand, and I chased them down the street, and they crashed my car. It was absolutely insane. All right, I'll be quiet. What's up?
That's out of a movie. I'm glad you're all right.
Me too.
But I had the question about the Series B that y'all discussed a little bit ago.
Yeah.
But before that, Simon, when it comes to the different haircuts, like I've heard you say about 50%, and when I hear you say that, I'm thinking like across the board, no matter what you're holding. I know that's kind of vague, but you've also said there's no matter which way you go, which makes this whole thing so complicated. There's going to be a winner, there's going to be a loser. Like let's say they have X amount of Bitcoin, X amount of Ether, let's say 50% on those, but they only have, let's say 20% of the altcoins or 20% of the stable coins. Are there potential scenarios where the Bitcoiners get 50% back, the Ethers get 50% back, and then some of those other alts get much lower? In either way, really, it kind of screws either side, because let's say you dollarize it, and then this process gets drawn out, and then crypto goes up, then the stable coin holders would be okay from that, but then all the other people would kind of hurt from that. And I've seen you tweet in the past. I apologize if I chopped it a little bit, paraphrasing, but I think you said something along the lines to where you couldn't see them selling off part of their Bitcoin or part of their Ethereum to pay for link holders or stablecoin holders or anything in that realm. So if we can just discuss that for a little bit and then go to the Series B.
Yeah. Well, the answer is anything can happen. It would seem crazy to me to say, oh yeah, we've got less Bitcoin, and I don't know. It's I don't think I have the answer. My answer would be as mishmashed as your question. I think there's a million ways that this can go, and I think there's some really hard decisions to be made. But that's why we're all in this together, because whatever's happening with Cell Token, how that's pricing, may affect the end haircut that everyone that didn't have Cell gets. There's quite a few ways this can go, and the only way we can start to think about it is once we actually really know the crypto to crypto breakdown. And my guess is that there's have you ever seen it, Thomas, any experience where could you see it where like Bitcoiners could be in a much worse position than ETH holders based upon recovering, I guess, just treating it as property and paying out the property to those who a haircut version of who it was to, versus just the whole Chapter 11 liquidation and putting it all into one thing? What have you got any thoughts on it?
Yeah, let me try. First of all, it's an easy answer. No, I've never seen it because these are groundbreaking cases. And I like to be an optimist and hope that these are cases that will help set the tone for, I don't want to call it crypto regulation, but a lot of crypto case law and ways of dealing with things. So that's one. So no, I have not seen it because it's just never happened. But there is the absolute priority rule, and similarly situated creditors in the bankruptcy code are supposed to be treated equally. So if everybody was basically an investor in the earned product, even though they have Bitcoin in their account, even though the ETH, I think you would have a problem not giving people as best as you could, pari passu or whatever you want to call it, like equal treatment. So it's possible. I've seen people throw out things like, well, if you look kind of at the rough balance sheet, there's a small but little bit of greater of a hole on Bitcoin or Ethereum. And I see some of these numbers and I'm kind of like, yeah, that's not going to work, because I feel like at the end of the day, like, people probably, there's going to be like elections. So like, let's say you just do a liquidation. I'm not saying that's where it's going, Simon, but let's just use it as a template because it's easy to think about, a little easier to think about. Take the top 10 or 20 cryptos, and then everyone has an earn account that's basically dollarized at the time of the petition, and then they elect for the cryptos and crypto allocations they want. And then the estate can either use what it has and or even augment their either Bitcoin or Ethereum holdings based upon the distribution elections that people choose. I don't see why they can't do that. That's what creditors want. There's nothing in the bankruptcy code that precludes it. But I do think you'll have issues around giving people different recoveries just because their account said Bitcoin and there happens to be 56% of in terms of recoveries, quote unquote, on Bitcoin versus 52% for Ethereum. Like that's not going to fly to me. The judge isn't going to go for that. The court wouldn't go for that just because of the absolute priority rule.
Sweet, thanks, Thomas. And just to go back to GL when he was talking about why is it so confusing? Why isn't there a simple ledger that explains everything? There is. They know exactly what they have.
I know, man. I want to see it. I hate it.
Yeah. So like that, those questions is what makes all of it so complicated. Even though what GL was asking or talking about is there. It's just going forward from that is what makes it so complicated.
Yeah, and even things like they probably don't have ETH; they have ST ETH. That's not ETH.
Exactly.
Yep.
And
BTC, they have WBTC and BTC at FTX. That's not BTC, so it's interesting.
Also, who gets the benefit of those things post petition? So like the bankruptcy code has this big thing about like pre-petition, post-petition. Like everything is like, bifurcated. There's like a big line in the sand between pre-petition and post-petition. So who gets the uplift in value? Does it get shared across the creditors in the estate? Does it get shared for the people that had ETH and therefore they get the staked ETH? Like, I don't know. Doesn't staked ETH have like an income portion to it? No, maybe I'm making that up. But I guess my point is anything that's like I don't want to say DeFi, but any program that the debtor's doing that, someone's going to answer it, please. But any DeFi or any sort of program they're doing where there's income being generated, who gets that benefit? Does it get shared across the estate? Does it only go to the? I don't think it would only go to the equity holders. But my point is like, how the bankruptcy code's never really dealt with this. I mean, generally, uplift in values post petition over the claim value go once the claims are paid, go to the equity. I don't think it's going to happen here. And I think people that try to scare you that it will happen either haven't really thought deeply enough about the code, or just are not that experienced with it. Because they're more. It's more to it than just dollarizing. But it is true that for claim purposes, that'll happen. But I'm very these are for me as a sort of a bankruptcy nerd and someone who's into crypto at the same time. I don't want to say it's great to see these cases because I hate to hear. I know people lost money as investments, and that's terrible. But also, like, there are people that lost like life savings. When someone tells me they lost $114,000 and they describe to me that that's like 30 years of their savings, I'm like, oh my God, that's horrible. And that is even more sad to see. But I'm hoping that they get good resolutions. But these cases are going to be a seminal moment in my mind for crypto. If it's going to be the future, like, we need the cases to be not done in an efficient manner, but they can't just like totally break down and turn into vapor. I mean, we kind of need, hopefully, and I've selfishly I've loved all the community engagement. Like, I've thoroughly enjoyed being part of all the spaces, being part of all the Telegram channels, people asking me questions about this. Sometimes I don't know the answer. Sometimes I know the answer is very simple. But a lot of times, like, they raise really good questions that I don't know the answers to. And it's not because I don't know what I'm talking about. It's because they've never been answered.
Yeah, like you said, it's groundbreaking. So I can see where that some sort of excitement can come from that. And last thing, I'm sorry, fellas, for the kind of complicated subjects, but I think this is a pretty important one after hearing the discussion y'all had about that Series B round, and how that was conducted and how it was raised, and then how the money shifted in between the companies. Does that not put that Canadian pension fund at in my mind, after hearing that, potentially the very first in line to get the highest potential payout? And if that is a scenario or a possibility with how that all was conducted, and they get the maximization of whatever haircut or the best return or refund, whatever you want to call it, thus widening the gap for all the other creditors. Right. That was very interesting to hear y'all talk about that Series B.
My pushback on that transaction would be, what did they know? When did they know it? What did they not disclose to the other potential creditors? Was there conflicts in the fact that I don't know if the Canadian pension went on the board, if they have board representation, what did their board representation know? If they are on the board, then they owe a duty not just to their own investment, but to all the shareholders and to some extent all the stakeholders. What did they know? When did they know it? What comes out in discovery? Or, I think in lawyers refer to them as smoking guns. Are there any hot smoking flaming guns, emails, things that were found out in discovery? What did the advisors find out? So for me, as a creditor of the consumer side of the business, which is basically everybody here that's engaged, that are just like, sometimes of course you have whales, but just normal folks as well. They're just trying to invest in the future and also are interested in crypto and saving and stuff like that. What did they know? Were there breaches by their representatives on the board? Was it a fraudulent conveyance of a transaction, meaning that when they moved the assets of the consumer business from the UK company to the American subsidiary, were they basically taking assets away from those customers, yourselves, by the very transaction that they completed? And so I think there's a lot of pushback to what these guys are potentially going to be asserting. And I think it should be heavily scrutinized, because it's one of those things where the music could have stopped there, but you had a pension fund. This is like kind of the insidiousness sometimes you'll see in investments. You had a pension fund that is basically investing retirees' money, potentially engaging in a transaction that is now, in hindsight, taking away dollars from, just other regular folks that are trying to save for a retirement. So it's all kind of like not good. So I think it is, maybe it's all above board. Maybe nothing comes out of the transaction, but I think or looking into this transaction, but I think it will be, and it should be heavily scrutinized.
Yeah, I'm laughing through the pain, through all that.
Yeah, I know.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, Simon, can I jump in? You hear me?
Sure.
Yeah. Hey, Simon, Plan C, you guys are saints. I'm one of the people that has most of their life savings on the platform. I kind of got to this point of I'm new to crypto in 22, and I had a business that I sold earlier this year, and I sold it because my business partner was doing some stuff that wasn't right, wasn't good, and so we had to fold the company. And so whenever I took that money and was looking to invest and figure out some things, I came upon crypto, and then found Celsius through some internet stuff with Plan C is part of, and was just really, really intrigued by it, and I got on, and so it's been devastating. And honestly, I don't know anything about this whole Celsius community from however many years or whatever, but you guys have been my community in the past few months. You guys are often prayed for in our home. And, you guys, somebody of your caliber, Simon, that is taking the time to do this, and of your caliber, and you're like, I can't believe anybody would question your capability of doing these things, and honestly your integrity. So I wanted to speak that out. My question is, earlier this year when I put a lot of money onto Celsius, and I'm in this earn program, and then one day I just arrive on the, I log in and I'm like, what's this talking about? Earn and custody, because I'm just a regular guy, man. I don't, I'm not super involved in all of securities or, even stocks or anything like that. And all it really tells me is if I take it off of the earn, like I can't get it back in there. And, I'm thinking, well, then I probably shouldn't, but I don't know what all this means. And, from my eyes, what you guys are talking about is absolutely true. The research I did, that I saw AMA's Mashinsky, what he was saying, what it looked like, the longevity that Celsius had been
out into the world of as many years as it was, all the things that I did hear from him, like, yeah, I feel absolutely duped, and I've only been in this a few months. And so, then to find out, okay, really, I should never have been allowed in an earn program. And the moment then they state that, if I move it off of earn and I go into custody, like, that's really where I should be. So the fact that they didn't basically force me to be there, almost makes me feel like, did I do something wrong? Because I'm like, I'm in a spot that I shouldn't, because yeah, you're talking about, if there was security, I should have done a checklist. I should have done all this to know, like, hey, this is what you're risking. And to now be in a spot where a business that I had for 10 years that, ended poorly, but I did come out well. And now I'm going to potentially have a haircut or loss on that it will affect my kids' colleges and everything. Like, it's been a rough ride. So I thank you guys for being there. If there's any way you could explain to me, this, is there any way that it could be considered that, hey, these individuals in the because I know it's different, I guess, in the U.S., that these individuals should have technically be in custody? How does that even work out?
First, I just want to thank you for sharing your story. It touched me. I think you've been on a real emotional roller coaster. Secondly, I'd like to say, I hope this doesn't put you off our industry altogether. I believe that this industry being involved in this industry gave me hope in a time when I didn't have much hope. And I was in a broke business that went bust in the financial crisis. My father lost all his money in the stock market. And all I wanted to do, geeking out on banking, was make a difference in the world of banking. And regulators told us that we're not the type of person that would be regulated. They told us that we need to put 60 million at a bank. And I didn't know how to have 60 million. I was deep in debt at the time. That I shouldn't even be the CEO of the company. I remember what that's like. I was broken and broke. But when I discovered Bitcoin, it was like hope for me that we had a future. And it changed my life, and it changed my life in such a meaningful way that I'm so grateful for this industry. And if people, because of Celsius, don't get involved in this industry and don't take the education and don't take the lessons and recover, and if we do that all together, and we can have another story like Bitfinex, it would just be like me as a geek and me as a human. It would be the most amazing thing that could happen. And so if we can do that, then I'll work till the end to try and achieve that. But there's a reality that I might fail, and this company might become worthless. And my commitment to you is to always tell you the risks, and to let people know so that they can allocate the right amount of funds based upon the level of risk that they can take. And sometimes we get caught up in, I'm a bank basher and a regulator basher as much as the other person. I didn't sign up to become a compliance officer and a securities law person. I just wanted to democratize investing, and suddenly I end up in all these regulations and crazy things. And so I'm someone that can bash that. But the reality is that a lot of us got duped, and intentionally, because they wanted to create a very successful business, or maliciously. I prefer to think that the cup is half full, and I try to see the best in people. But there was a moment when I realized the actions of this person has cost a lot of people a lot of money, and some of them their lives. And I'm not a confrontational person, so this was deeply uncomfortable for me. But I feel like it was what needed to be done. And so I hope that you don't leave crypto. I hope that you learn you learn something from this, and you end up in a position where you can spend less than you earn and invest the difference. And I hope that happens for all of us. And so, yeah. Is there a chance that you would be treated as custody or owned? I'd probably turn that over to, Thomas and Plan C have created groups on these subjects, and there's groups together. So I'll let you get more technical on that. And
Dude, well, my only thought would be, I don't know if we want to open forum it, so you can always DM me, especially someone, anyone can always DM me. And of course, the idea of someone losing their life savings is horrible, sad. And I kind of, Simon and Plan C, you guys are like really in crypto. So it's like, I love the sentiment of like, feeling for someone that's like had tough timing or bad timing on their initial entry, but also like the sentiment of like not like letting it dissuade you from getting further into crypto or in the future. So anyway, but you can always DM me. And what I don't know if you want to open format. I could ask you a few questions about your claim, but maybe it's honestly, if you want to DM me offline, I'll try my best.
Yeah, no, it
Hey, Tom,
it doesn't matter to me. I'll answer anything.
Go for
yeah,
it.
I was just gonna say, like, I can help with on this subject just because I was heavily involved during the time this occurred. So, yeah, I think it's relevant, like not necessarily on a specific level, although I'm really sorry to hear what he's going through. I appreciate the kind words as well. But as far as like there's a lot of people in his specific position. So, yeah, as far as this custody earn idea, and as far as this change, this absolutely just came out of nowhere. Like like everyone in the community was like, wow, all of a sudden there's now a custody account, and now all of a sudden people in the U.S. that aren't accredited, if they remove anything from the EARN program, they can never go back. And so there's a huge incentive to stay in the EARN program. So, and this just got implemented within like 2 weeks. It came out of nowhere. People were trying to get more funds into EARN because they thought, okay, I can never remove it again. So there was kind of like this sense of urgency for people because no one knew that there was any other things going on with the company, right? So, yeah, it was kind of like, I don't know the specific details. Anything I would say here is alleged. I'm just speculating. But if you make a deal with a regulator, and you say, okay, well, now we'll make it so that people that have assets on the app are allowed to stay even though they're unaccredited and they're in this EARN product. You're going to incentivize them to stay in that product, and you're going to have more assets that you're able to earn yield on. So it's a for the company, it's great because you're creating. You're basically having people that now can't be in there, but they're grandfathered in, and you're incentivizing them to stay, and that benefits the company. And it also like is something they can make a deal with the regulators. So I don't know the ins and outs. I wasn't there. I don't have any inside information, but it's unfortunate because, like you said, you ended up in a product that you really shouldn't have been in, and a new person joining couldn't be in that today, but it was just like really bad timing, and you thought, okay, I should stay here because I'll never be allowed to go back here. So it kind of tricked people in a way. I would argue. So you should actually create your own group. I don't know if it's legal or not. I'm not a lawyer. I have no clue. But was
you grandfathered in? Were you grandfathered in?
Well, yeah, yes.
Oh, dude, there's a group. There's a Telegram group for that. No, I'm joking. There really is.
No, there should be. I didn't know there was, Thomas, because there absolutely should be, and those people should be getting together.
All that happened 2 months prior to everything being halted. I might add.
I know.
So I'm in that case as well as a U.S. person, and like Plan C said, motivated you to try to load up more and then not move it. And then when you see all the attacks and all the FUD that turned out to be fact, you feel trapped and all of that. And I don't know. I've wanted to look in those groups, but I've also that opens up. And it's kind of where my stomach dropped when David was on earlier saying it's going to be civil war, man.
I don't think. I don't want to push back too hard, but like people asserting their legal rights and pushing back on pre-petition activity and unpacking some of the stuff that went on with Mashinsky and the C-suite, and I guess I guess this is all like Celsius crowd. That's not bad. I think that's good. I think that, and I also think that people with rights deserve to assert them, you know. And if the judge doesn't agree, fine. And if it's an ad hoc committee, they're footing their own bill, you know. So guess what? Less stupid shit happens when you pay the bill yourself versus, you know, an estate paying the bill where you get people playing politics and stuff like that. So I think a formal committees where the debt estate's paying it, that gets ugly and it can eat through returns. But I totally disagree with them. I think the estates are large enough to support, you know, some discussion about what this stuff is. And if guys think they're custody, they should be able to support it. If guys think they're grandfathered in, earn, and they should be custody, they should be able to assert it. And I disagree. I don't disagree in like some like vehement level. I sort of think that I don't think it's going to be a total food fight. And even if it is, most of those ad hoc committees are being paid for by people that are footing their own bills. And guess what? When you pay your own bill, you look at the bill, you know, so it keeps things within check. So I sort of like disagree with this idea that all hope is lost. I don't like, it's not even about the message. I think it's a little bit hyperbolic. That was what I would say.
Can I ask one more thing of Simon?
Sorry, go ahead.
He you know, mentioned, hey, I hope this doesn't turn you off to crypto. And, you know, honestly, the first few weeks I was like, I'm done. Like, no, I'm never coming back to crypto. You know, I have about 20% left on other, you know, platforms or MetaMask wallet. And, you know, I'm going, okay, well, where's this going to go? And, you know, to hear him earlier talking about in the long run, he's seeing that that they'll all be deemed, you know, securities in some sense. And like, that they might be taking, you know, coins off exchanges and stuff. So, and I'm hearing these things, and this is a little off topic of Celsius in general, but me going, well, now where am I supposed to be at? Because crypto to me looks like it's the best place I can go to recover from if I'm going to have a loss here. But then if a year goes by, 2 years go by, and regulations come out, and then all of a sudden coins are off in exchanges, and there's this weird scenario where, well, how do I sell them now? Or wait, I shouldn't even have them because I'm not able to have securities. Then am I going to lose even just the last bit that I ended up putting in? And I know that's like a long-term question, but then why would I want to be in this space if there's going to be some kind of inevitability that's going to come of that it could be a decent possibility that, like, when I've already taken a hit like this, I'm like, man, I need to step back and wait and see.
Yeah, no, I'm ultra bullish on our industry. I'm just willing to ride it out and go through all the waves. So, you know, Bitcoin to me is one of the most important things we've seen since the internet.
I agree.
And I think Ethereum has created an amazing community. And regulators have said these aren't securities. There's a big battle right now between the Commodities Futures Exchange and the Securities and Exchange Commission. There's also power plays at those levels. This is the most exciting time to be alive in financial history, but right now you're experiencing a disaster, a financial disaster for yourself. And so are so many, even in the traditional world right now. There's a lot of really crazy stuff happening in the world right now. But this invention in the industry that you're a part of is the solution to so many things in my mind. And I could be completely deluded, but I've been called deluded for over a decade now, and it changed my life financially just by supporting this industry. And so I believe that there is a future. I believe that there is risk, but that's the reward that people get from this industry. And when you take risk, you get scammed, you lose money, you do things wrong, you learn from them, and you become a better investor, because the reality of the world is every single person in the world right now has to invest, because if they don't invest, they're getting eaten away by inflation and debt. And so we have a solution, and you're involved in something that very few people have seen. And even you think you're a noob, but in 2022, you're an early adopter of something that I believe is like really special to the world. So Yes. Will it be delisted from a crypto exchange? Yeah, but on the flip side, there'll be a security token exchange, and there'll be DeFi solutions, and there'll be all sorts of craziness. And this isn't the last time this is going to happen. And of course, governments are going to attack. We'd be crazy not to think that they're not going to attack. This is the changing of some of the most vested interests in the world. This is a change of the financial system, and you happen to be alive at that moment. And I think that's exciting. And we need to get through this. We can use financial innovation, and maybe it would be something that unifies us all. I think certainly these spaces have already achieved that goal. Like I know people and have relationships with people that I never had before and didn't know before. And I think all of us are speaking like humans as well sometimes when we're off Twitter and we come on. That's cool. That's what the community is. So you're not in it alone. And I think you should stick around the community.
Thanks, Simon.
Can I jump in real quick?
Hey, oh shit.
Simon, I wanted to tell you again, like you guys from the beginning, I know you lost your father and when all this happened, and it's just, I just really appreciate like the guy that was on here earlier and just back and forth with you guys. I just hope that you keep a tough skin and that I would say 99% of us are following you guys. I just appreciate everything you guys are doing for all of us. I do have one question for Thomas, and that is, if you don't mind, in a very simplified answer,
What's up, man?
what would you say, just simplified timeline, best case scenario for all of us as creditors, timeline versus worst case scenario? And thank you again, everyone.
Dude, nice to meet you. Sure. Bankruptcy process. I'm like the auditor you don't want to talk to until you like you need to like go over your audit. Timeline is, but I love being part of the community, so it's fun for me. So.
Or maybe Thomas or anybody who would know, I guess, like Simon Clancy. I don't know.
I mean, I'll just give you a bankruptcy thing, and I'll let the guys weigh in on other things. I mean, just the bankruptcy procedural stuff. Like, so if they sell the business and it follows like a Voyager's timeline, by Christmas, like, maybe you could be unlocked. I doubt it because I think that's too optimistic. But let's say like, first quarter of next year, you could have a confirmed plan. That's what Voyager's pushing for, and say we're a little behind that. So maybe Q2 of next year. That's probably like a very good scenario. I wouldn't say the best, but like a very good scenario. And then the bad scenario, I'd say bad, but let's just call it like the more drawn out scenario. Let's say crypto keeps going up, but like, there's too many factions of people and there's really nobody showing up to like really get a solidified plan together. It could be 2-3 years before the crypto is distributed. And I'm only sort of widening it because I don't want people to be like, you said this range. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I did, didn't I?
Yeah.
So, but that range, if you want to make it more like, what would the phrase be? Like, if you want to move around the confidence intervals, just tighten it. So call it like somewhere between like a 6 months and like an 18 months is probably the real range. And then if you want, you can blow that range up. You can make it 4 months all the way to 3 years.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I know it's kind of a crystal ball question, but it's just for people like the gentleman who was speaking earlier. I'm new to crypto. I've got about $60,000 in Celsius, and it's huge for me and my family, and it's just devastating. But at the same time, it's like this. I appreciate just all the heartfelt positive feedback because it's not what crypto's about, and there is a lot of opportunity, and I just appreciate all you guys very much.
Hey guys, can I jump in real quick? First of all, I want to say thank you to Simon, Plan C, Thomas, and everybody else in the community that's keeping us up to date on this process. I've been follow up as much as I could, and I want to touch on the subject
did we lose you?
Talking about yet. I'm a depositor in Celsius. I have right now a little bit over $750,000, and I'm also shareholder of Celsius. And besides of what they're going to do with the assets, decisions later on, I just want to ask about the airdrops that Celsius was supposed to receive throughout this time. One in particular, the flat note work for Ripple, which is, I have somewhere around a little bit over 400,000 Flare network. Could be worth, I don't know, 350,000. I have nobody talking about the airdrops, or it's any plans for the airdrops. How can we even be able to list those airdrops on the forums? Can you guys talk more
Yeah,
about
this is
the?
this is a really interesting point that I haven't heard anyone talk about. But in the Mt. Gox, the Bitcoin Cash came along, and then different forks came along, and Ethereum Classic. No, there was no in Mt. Gox, obviously. But yeah, the different Bitcoins came along, and that went into the trustees' assets, and they sold some of those assets to make people whole. So, these are interesting property questions, and if some of those airdrops become valuable, then that's an interesting thing that can happen.
Yeah, because it's not even account as the balance sheets, I believe, because when you open on the app, for example, it doesn't show the value of the coin. Obviously, haven't been distributed yet, but I know it's being traded as IOUs in some exchange. But again, the reason a lot of people send Ripple to the Celsius network is because they were going to, support the airdrop. So I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, well, there's also going to be a hard fork. Already some of the ETH miners want to create the proof of work or keep the proof of work Ethereum.
Yeah.
And we've seen all this before, but that's the interesting scenario of crypto. Really weird things can happen, and unexpected results can come along. And someone like you comes along and says, "Hey, what about this airdrop?" That's interesting. That adds to the estate.
Okay. Thank you.
And that was actually something that, being on the community calls prior to the things going south, it's funny in some ways, because that question hasn't been brought up in any of these rooms, but that was actually the one of the main questions that kept getting brought up week after week, were people wondering where their airdrops were for Ripple. And I mean, the response from the company was essentially they were trying to work on a way to distribute those tokens. They just needed, I think, my understanding, from what I remember, is they needed a way of custodying those coins. So it was like a technological hurdle or something. But yeah, it was discussed heavily prior to things changing. But anyways, yeah, it never really got resolved and never got distributed, I guess. But it came up every week on calls.
I was wondering if I could jump in here. I've been trying to get on and say a little bit over the last few calls, but it's my first time speaking. Sorry if I cut anybody off. First, wanted to say that, Simon, thank you. My wife and I are both depositors in Celsius. Unfortunately, we're both retired and had a pretty good chunk of our change on there, but I don't think we're as in bad a shape as most people. We were smart enough at least not to put all of our eggs in one basket, and so we're going to be okay, but still, it was a lot of money between the two accounts. I wanted to touch base quickly on what the last person speaking was saying about the Flare tokens that were airdropped. One of the things that I noticed and I wanted to bring up is that I'm a U.S. citizen. My wife has dual citizenship, but her account was set up here in the U.S. So when this problem went on with the Celsius creating the custody wallets versus the earn wallets, Celsius took it upon themselves to take our XRP and throw it into an earn account, even though they weren't paying us anything. And I just don't think that was, necessarily fair. I think that they should have sent out something asking us if we had an option of where we wanted that, instead of just defaulting it in, since they weren't paying us anything. I feel that those assets, if it's going to make a difference, should be considered custodied accounts as well as the Flare token. They did the same thing there. They threw them into into the earn accounts, even though the tokens haven't even arrived yet on the platform. So if they weren't paying U.S. holders on their XRP, why were they allowed to keep those in earn accounts and even have earn accounts exist at that point? Because as far as I understand, when you're in an earn account, even in the banks, they have to pay you something, even if it's 0.00, 00, whatever the banks pay you. So that's some input on that. I also wanted to say that for those people that are listening that are in a tough spot, myself, I'm 58, and I like what Simon has to say with trying to encourage people that have a lot in this platform. I've definitely gone bust a few times here and there in my life, and was able to make a full recovery. It hurts a little bit as you get older because you run out of time to do that. But even though my wife and I are upside down by about $250,000 right now in our retirement, with this going on with Celsius, we're already just planning ahead with how to make a recovery for it, and things that we can do and investments we can take. And for the guy who wasn't sure, I think it was Plan C, that said that he wasn't sure if he should stay in this space. This isn't financial advice, but I think that being somewhere in this space today could be very rewarding. I'm not going to hold it against me for what happened with Celsius and what happened with Mashinsky. One more quick thing I would like to bring to the table is that I have been involved in a bankruptcy before that had this clawback laws and preferential treatment, and it does happen. And I was in a bankruptcy that was involved with, where clawback happened, and they actually clawed back money from preferential treatments. I know that's a very complicated subject, but I'm hoping that Alex, being the major depositor, from what he often said, I'm hoping that his finances get looked at to make sure that he didn't pull his finances off the exchange within that preferential window, because I think there should be some type of a clawback. I would also have a problem with somebody being richer if, when this thing comes to an end, that and everybody else being poor that he was involved with. So I'm hoping that a thorough investigation is done on Mashinsky, not only civilly but also criminally, to make sure that there were no laws broken. And if there were, I'm hoping that something similar can happen, like what happened with Bernie Madoff, where they actually go in and take personal assets to pay back creditors, because this has been the biggest devastating thing in my life. I referred people to this platform. I believed in Mashinsky, and I got duped like a lot of you out there. And it broke my wife's heart. It brings tears to my eyes. I brought my son into this. It's just... anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you for the time.
Oh man, John, I'm sorry to hear about your story, but can we start? So thanks for sharing. Can we start from the back and work forward? Can you give some, since you've been through a preference? Sounds like a preference lawsuit. How did it happen? How did you settle it? Just for people to think through how these things work.
Well, I was involved with a bankruptcy where somebody had dispersed a bunch of money within, I think back then it was 90 days or something, if you made some kind of a preferential treatment within 90 days. So they were trying to just get rid of a bunch of money to people. And whether or not they actually transacted that money, I don't know. But in the end, what happened was the courts decided that that money must be clawed back. They sent out a letter to all the all the people that had received those funds, or allegedly had received those funds, and told them that they had to return the funds. And every single one of them did, from what I understand. So it was a mess. But it definitely had to do with that preferential treatment. And I'm really curious to see, hopefully we can get access to Alex's accounts on Celsius and see what happened with, with his funds. I haven't heard anybody talking about that, but certainly if he withdrew his funds, I would think they would hold him, accountable for that. Yeah.
The preference
and that's what I'm
period,
thinking.
The preference period, John, for an insider is not 90 days, but it's a year. And not only that, there's
Okay.
also fraudulent conveyance statutes for insiders that are 2 years. And that's for constructive fraud, meaning that it's not actual intent to defraud. It just happens to have happened within 2 years. So I guarantee you, I can't promise you much because you have a lot of money at stake for yourself here. But I can guarantee you a
Well,
few things. Like his
yeah.
activities will be incredibly scrutinized. I didn't even know there was a 2004 motion on file at the appointment of an examiner. These things are going to happen all over the shop for Mashinsky and the insiders. So please rest assured that those
Yeah,
things will be scrutinized.
that's what I'm hoping for. I mean, like I said, this has just been. I've had sleepless nights. I'm literally sitting here thinking what I have to sell to try to make people whole that I brought into this out of my own pocket, and that's just, it's devastating. I mean, it just brings tears to my eyes.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
John, don't feel bad, man. Honestly. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of people I've had conversations with that are in your same position. They got a lot of people involved, and they feel really responsible for that. But honestly, it's not your fault. You didn't know.
Yeah.
You were just trying to help people out. Friends and family got involved. This is a common story with a lot of people, and I've heard some pretty hard situations where people feel responsible for all their friends and
Oh,
family.
yeah.
And just
Sure.
honestly, you only knew what you knew, and again, it's not your fault. You can feel guilty, but it's just not your fault. So
Yeah.
you did the best with the
Well,
information you had.
yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, that's comforting, but it's easier said than done. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are in my situation. I'm sure a lot of people have cried. A lot of people have, contemplated worse things. For me, I've been through tough times. I always get up and go forward, and I know people can do that, no matter how bad it is. But man, I've been in this space for 5 years. I bought my first Bitcoin at $2,400. I still have it today, luckily. But I did have considerable amount of, between my wife and I, of crypto on the exchange, as well as my son, and and some of my friends, close friends. So I'm hoping that I'm hoping that it's Simon and all of you and whatever we can do as a community together and pull together here is we can try to build something. I'm in it for the long run, even though I'm pushing 60. I don't mind looking 20 years out. I know money is more important the older I get anyway. So, we can recover from this. It's not unrecoverable. Even at our age, we can pull through this. It's just something we all have to get through. And I appreciate all what you guys are doing out there. Simon, I mean, we must have close to the same brain cells. Maybe we're related somehow. I don't know, but I follow you, and I'm humbled by you, and I really believe in you, and I think alike. I'm in line with your thoughts. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing for this community. And I told my wife last night. I said, look, whatever Simon does is what we're going to do. If Simon starts a company out of this or is able to do something with this, whatever he does, whatever his personal decisions are, I think that's probably what we're going to do. So I don't take that as financial advice from you, Simon, but I'm a big boy. I can make my own decisions, and I've navigated this space well. I come from a technical background. I've helped a lot of people. I'm going to continue to evangelize this space. I believe in it. I know it's the future. All you have to do is go into the bank like I did yesterday and spend 15 minutes behind a guy trying to get $10,000 out to realize that we've got problems. And we need to fix this. And I was laughing in the bank thinking these guys are so done here because this is just old technology. There's no reason why people would go back to using really typewriters anymore. And that's what I feel like when I go in the bank, that it's like typewriter technology. So I'm going to stay in this space. I'm going to help people. I'm going to continue to help people in this space going forward. And I hope a lot of people listening do the same thing. Don't get discouraged by one bad thing that happens in this space. I'm not sure Alex started out. I kind of agree with Simon. I'm not sure he started out with bad intentions. I just think that he just this thing got too big too fast, and it just got away from him. And at the end of the day, it was a leaking pot, and they were losing a lot of money, and they were thinking they could fill the hole and save this thing, and I think that's probably what happened. I hope that's what happened, but I'm hoping there's a thorough investigation to find out if there was some malice intent here or some crimes that were committed. So I'm just going to sit back and not judge anybody yet, but I'm just going to stay the course and stay with the community here. So thanks for your opportunity to speak today.
All right, thank you so much for sharing all of that. Touched, and yeah, that's all we can do. We can look to the future, and I think we're involved in a good future. And so yeah, that's what we do. But yeah, when you beat yourself up, just think that I've dedicated 2 decades of my life to this subject and the last 10 years in Bitcoin, and I still had a bunch of money on Celsius. So we're all capable of doing things, and you know, if me with all my knowledge that still happened, then it can happen to anyone.
That's for sure. And I'll tell you, out of all the platforms I use, all the self-custody, all the different solutions, all the places that we have our crypto stored, and luckily we have it diversified, the one I wasn't worried about, we just trusted Mashinsky. That's what we're guilty of here. We trusted Mashinsky. We trusted the team over there to do what's in the best interest of the community. I believed everything they said. I was just, again, you know, I stopped kind of paying attention to their AMAs, kind of like you did, Simon, from what I heard you say, just because I just felt that, you know, I trusted, I logged in for recaps, but I just trusted that platform. That was the number one platform I trusted out of everybody and every place that I have my currencies. And it's ironic that it was the one that, the only one that the only landmine we've stepped on so far in this space for 5 years. So, you know, it's a lesson, and I'll be a better investor because of it. So again, thank you. I'm done. I'll let some other people speak, but thanks for listening. Okay. Thank you. Okay, bye.
Yeah, if you only made one mistake, one landmine in 5 years, then you're a better investor than me.
Well, I don't know about that, but thanks for the compliment, Simon. Thank you.
All right, cool. I'm actually gonna have to shoot off and crash now. I can't do any more, I think. But everyone's stories were so great. It's just kept us up for hours. Are we okay if we end it on that note?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, totally.
you going for 6 hours here almost. So I mean, yeah, it's understandable to take
yeah, guys. Can I just say, like, thanks for the stories. Like, of course, like, I don't know, I can't speak for Simon and Plan C, but I assume this is for them the same reason I try to add my little area, which is just like the bankruptcy stuff, which is like, you know, there's no reason to do this, you know, for any other reason other than to just, I mean, to basically help people when you hear their stories, and you can't help but empathize. So that's honestly, thanks for sharing and being open to sharing, and try our best to get through all this stuff. And Plan C, Simon, thanks for spending all the time on all this stuff. So
awesome. Okay, I'm going to end it now. Did you want to say anything finally, Plan C? Were you good?
No, that's okay. Thanks for joining, everyone. Thanks for taking the time out to be part of the group here in the community, and let's just focus on solutions and keep moving forward and support each other.
Okay, bye-bye.
Night, guys.